Hello, and welcome to this screencast that will take you through a sample paper 1 question 2. Reminder, I went over this in the last PowerPoint for art of argumentation, but this one follows with a sample. So real quick, the basic steps, make sure you begin with a topic sentence that provides an overall assessment of the document. Is it overall strong or is it overall weak? And then give a really quick rationale. You don't have to get into it, but give a basic reason why you deemed the document to be strong or weak. Then, if you thought the article was weak, you review 2 strengths, explaining how those strengths enhance the main conclusion of the author. And then in the second paragraph, you do the opposite. You review 3 to 4 weaknesses, explaining how these weaknesses detract from the main conclusion. Basically, they diminish it and make it less likely for a reader to believe it. If you deem the opposite to be true, then you do the reverse. First, review 2 flaws, and then in the second paragraph, 3 to 4 strengths. Just remember how important it is to use thinking skills terms. That's why we went over that whole PowerPoint. Make sure you don't waste time quoting long sentences. Just summarize it in a few words, because what the examiner wants to look at is how you assess the strengths and weaknesses. So don't waste time restating things. And above all, explain how each strength or flaw enhances the MC or takes away from it. You don't just want to reiterate what they're saying. You want to explain how each of these strengths or each of these flaws helps build the case that the author's trying to make or does the opposite. So when I come down to my sample, this is on an actual paper 1 about gun use, and the author is against it. Notice that I've highlighted all of my transition words. It's so important to have a smooth progression when you're writing these. And then notice all my thinking skills terms that I've placed in red. If the day of the test you blank out, you can still explain how each flaw or strength decreases or increases the claim. But if possible, make sure to use the thinking skills terms. And of course, now because you're doing this for homework, you have plenty of time to look them up. All right, so the first thing you are supposed to do is topic sentence. So let's look at my topic sentence. All in all, in spite of a few strengths, document 1 is weak due to an overabundance of generalizations and unsupported statements. So I gave a basic rationale. Now, since I thought it was overall weak, I'm going to explain strengths first. I went ahead and went over 3 strengths. And this is where I can use anything in my toolkit from the art of argumentation to look at how the strengths help the claim. So I looked at the inductive structure, that the examples used were representative, that the hypotheticals were likely to occur, and look at the end how I assess this statistic. Similarly, her inclusion of specific statistics claiming 85% of reported firearm crimes occurred with unlicensed weapons is highly significant, as 85% is a staggeringly high number and comes from India's own government. And as such, it is highly unlikely that they would want to reveal such devastating information if it was not accurate. So I used 2 things from the art of argumentation. I used significance from SAD. 85% is obviously a high number, but I also talked about credibility. This comes from the India's own government. So that's reputable because it doesn't make their country look very good. So obviously, why would they be claiming this if it were untrue? Then look how I transition to the weaknesses. However, these strengths do not outweigh the plentiful weaknesses. And then I went over 4, including the author's own Raven, which isn't great because her expertise is in economics of education, which is irrelevant. So even though she has reputation, the fact that her expertise doesn't really have anything to do with gun rights in terms of India's culture really decreases the claim. And then I go over the generalizations, her vagueness, how her premises are unsupported. And at the end, I talk about the fact that she fails to provide a strong refutation. I say she does bring up the other side by explaining the importance of gun use to Indian tradition, but does not directly prove why this is wrong or why the government should step in and how, but instead simply moves on to statistics on illegal gun use. As a result of these generalizations and big support, Iyengar provides a less than stellar argument on the need for the Indian government to control gun use. So I don't just say she does not provide strong refutation and end it there. I explain how this weakens, and I also wrap up. So I hope that you found this sample helpful. Thank you.